Welcome back. You're listening to episode 26 of the Wellsy Weekly Podcast, the show where I talk about anything and everything. As ever, my name is John, aka Wellsy, and today I want to talk to you about the crossover event in the Arrowverse, because I'm a massive nerd, geek, whatever the word is, right? And I watch the shows Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and I'm like super excited for it. There won't be any spoilers in this, because I'm actually recording this before I've had a chance to watch the crossover event itself. But I want to talk about the trailers, what I'm looking forward to, and some theories about what might happen. So, let's get into it, shall we? And we can start with the first teaser trailer, which was back on The Flash in Season 1, if you go technically, when they showed the newspaper of The Flash disappearing. This was like a subtle nod to the crisis that is happening this year. So the crossover event happening this year is Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is a story arc from the comic books. Now, I don't think they actually planned for the show to get so far on the Arrowverse and to get so big as it actually did. So I don't think they actually thought it'd be possible. Because if you think about it, this might be one of the biggest TV crossovers ever. I can't think of anything that takes so many characters from at least 6 different shows and cameos from several others into just one mega event that happens over 5 hours or something close to that. And I prefer that compared to maybe a crossover film such as The Avengers. Because yes, Marvel is awesome, and it was really cool to see everyone on screen, but I don't think they had enough time to do everything they wanted. And the film is already 3 hours long, or at least very close to that. But in the Crisis crossover, they have 5 hours that they can spread out over several days, several shows. And they can focus on certain characters, which would be quite helpful. And it's an event you can kind of hype and build up to in a different way to movies, which I actually prefer. It's I quite like the feeling of, what happens next, speculating, what's going to happen, and finding out the next day or week or whatever it is. I know they kind of did that with Infinity War and Endgame, but the gap between that was an entire year. So it's very hard to keep hype for a movie for that long. Whereas the crossover here, it's spread out over 3 days, then you have a Christmas break, and then you get the final 2 episodes. So it's not a massive gap, but it's enough to keep people interested over Christmas and stuff. Anyway, so they released a bunch of trailers throughout the year, giving hints and tidbits of what's going to happen. I don't mind this from trailers. That's the whole point. What I like about these trailers though is the fact that there's a lot of scenes and dialogue that's pretty much the same throughout most of the trailers. So the problem with trailers these days is that a lot of the time they reveal way too much of the movie or the show or whatever it is they're trying to show. So by the time you actually get to watching the film or said show, you feel like you already know what's going to happen. Obviously you don't know every detail, but you can piece it together pretty easily. Now these Crisis trailers, they've not used loads and loads of different scenes that you can figure out what's going to go on. I mean, the average viewer won't anyway. If you've read the comic which this, crossover event is based on, you'll probably have more of an idea of how it might play out, which is good. It means people can be surprised when the show writers intended for them to be surprised. And they haven't shown every interaction with every character. So when we see a version of Batman and Superman team up maybe, it'll be quite shocking. Now if that actually happens, that'll be kind of cool. But something tells me it won't. Just because of copyright rules and, those types of characters on TV, I don't think they're allowed to do that, but I could be wrong. But moving on from that, I've watched Season 6 of The Flash and Season 8 of Arrow to catch me up to the speed of this crossover event, this Crisis. And The Flash is not very important, other than maybe the scenes with Nash Wells, because he's directly linked to the Crisis. I think people have figured out he's going to play a role from the comic books. He's going to play a character from the comic books, which is pretty important. Spoilers for those who haven't seen all of The Flash, but I think it's safe to assume that Nash Wells becomes the pariah character from the comic books. Now, this character is basically the guy who starts the Crisis in the first place. I can't remember how exactly he does it, but he does something which allows the Anti-Monitor to know about the positive matter universe, and he plans all his evil doings and whatnot. But it'll be cool to see Tom Cavanagh play another version of Wells, I really like the character. I think he's pretty cool. Well, I like the actor, to be fair. I think he's really cool. How he can just play a different version of the same character each season. Props to him. Hopefully he returns as the Reverse Flash for the Crisis as well, because that would be awesome. Although, I wouldn't mind if the other guy did either, the other actor. I just really like that character of the Reverse Flash. because the Flash never seems to defeat him, which is a weird thing to see. Like on most shows, the heroes most of the time win or defeat the villain, and then you'll never see that again. But the Reverse Flash just keeps popping up over and over again, you know. Now the Flash can get away with this more than most, purely because it's like a comic book show, and it has a multiverse and time travel, so they can do whatever they want really. But I think they do it in a way which isn't too confusing for the viewer, which is nice, because I've tried watching shows about time travel and all that before, and it gets very complicated very fast, and sometimes it's just not executed very well, which ends up a mess. Anyway, back to the topic. If you want to watch any of the shows to prep for this Crisis crossover, I definitely recommend watching Arrow Season 8. Not only for the reason that it's the last season, so there's just getting actors and actresses from previous seasons for some fan service, but the characters directly interact with the Monitor and his plans, which is really cool because the character of the Monitor is quite mental in comparison with Arrow, due to like the show being quite grounded. Yes, it has some elements of comic book stuff, but it's more gritty and realistic compared to shows like, I don't know, Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow. But it kind of works, like, the show has this cosmic and wild things happen, but it's still realistic in the sense of the show and the world it has created. My main concern for this season is that it would just go balls to the walls and lose like what I like about Arrow, but it didn't, so it's all good. It also has a character called Lila, who turns into another important character from the comics called Harbinger. She's kind of the one who brings all the heroes together. Now, I don't think she'll get corrupted by the Anti-Monitor like she did in the comics, because as far as I'm aware, she hasn't been split into multiple clones or anything like that, because that's how they did it in the comics. She kind of split herself into multiple clones to gather heroes from across the multiverse. And then one of them clones was like infected by the Anti-Monitor or something like that. And that's why she turned. But I don't think that'll happen in this one, but it might, who knows. But I think she'll play an important part in this crossover as a whole, at least. Which is cool, because that actress, you know, she's been kind of like secondary character on the Arrow show, so it's nice to see that she's got like more spotlight. Good for her. Now, I'll tell you what I'm really looking forward to though, the fact that they have characters from like previous TV shows as part of the crossover. So they've got some actors from like Smallville to play their original roles, like the Superman and Lois Lane. I think they've even got Kevin Conroy playing an older version of Batman, who, for those of you who don't know, he does the voiceover for a lot of Batman cartoons and some of the like games as well. I think he played Batman in Arkham Asylum? I could be wrong. It was definitely one of the Arkham games. And I just think it's really cool that they're basically connecting all the older shows into this already established universe. Not many franchises can say they do that. Oh, I wonder if they got like Mark Hamill to play like a Joker or some version of the Joker in the crossover. That would be awesome. I love Mark Hamill as like the Joker on like all the cartoons and stuff in the games. He's just awesome. Oh, I wonder if they could get like, I don't know, somebody from like the Adam West Batman TV show. That would be really cool as well. So yeah, the Crisis is going to be epic, you know. I can't wait for it. Like, I've been hyped for this since they announced it last year in like Crisis on Earth X, or yeah, Crisis on Earth X. No, what was the crossover last year? I don't know, I can't remember. So, if you're a nerd, or you watch the shows, I want to know your answer to the question of the week. And that question is, what characters do you want to see interact during the Crisis? I personally am looking forward to seeing all the Supermen in one scene. Like, that's just going to be really cool. But if you've got a comment, let me know down below, it'd be much appreciated. Well, that's it from me today, I think. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard, and remember, enjoy a cuppa.